Peace, family. This is Brother RTM, and today we are going to go into more details on how the LLC straight up is a trap. Family, as you know, a legacy is what you're remembered for, but a dynasty is what you build. And currently, I have built myself the dynasty structure. I am a recent, well, not recent, but a college graduate from Florida State University with an undergraduate degree in economics. I also received my MBA with a concentration in marketing. And throughout my whole years of schooling, I never learned anything about how to properly structure my business so that I would be successful separate from my business. That is the trap. An LLC, and we're going to break it down in a moment, connects you to your business, which means you are never separated from the business entity. So any problems or debt that business may occur is going to be tied directly to you. Any funding that you may try to get will only be as powerful as your personal credit allows. And that is not the whole purpose of a business. The purpose of a business is for it to be its own entity, for it to have its own business credit not attached to you. So we're going to get into details of the dynasty structure, but first, we're going to go into what a limited liability and protection is. I mean, it sounds good on paper, but we're going to go deeper using the IRS. Now, as we all know, when you're forming a business, I have formed a business. I have formed an LLC before, and my wife and I was using that LLC in the airport, Baltimore Washington International Airport. And when we needed funding and things, I always had to put down my Social Security, which limited, I don't know about you all, but I had lots of student loans. So this limited and greatly hindered my ability to get funding. And I thought something was up because I have a business. Why can't my business grow? My business was not properly structured. That was the key. So we're going to go on and show you what the IRS says about an LLC. Now, many of us, when you get a business, you have to apply for an EIN. But none of us, well, myself, well, I'll speak for myself, I'm not going to say none of us. Myself, and I know many of us, never took in consideration of exactly what does a EIN do. If we have to get one, shouldn't we educate ourselves on the purpose of a EIN, especially from the IRS? So in research and learning about the importance of structure, I saw that and understand that the EIN is an employer identification number. What that means, it allows the federal government to tax the business. It's like it's Social Security. So when the IRS need to come collect its federal taxes, it needs to know who to get. So if you have a LLC, which is only recognized at the state level, that's correct. An LLC is only recognized at the state level, and we're going to get into it. What does that exactly mean? So, as you can see, I'm on the IRS website. And if you was to apply online for your EIN, you will see, take you to the next screen, an application. Well, we want to get to the application and let's apply for the EIN. Let's see what it's telling us. All right, let's move my handsome face over here. Let's begin this application now. Okay, family, we get to the application, but we should read what this says because this is very, very important. So it asks us legal structure on the IRS website. This is important because how you start your business is going to affect how you receive funding and how this business will eventually end. So, just starting off bat, you will see a limited liability company. First of all, they always tell us about LLC. They say, oh, it's easy. It is more convenient. But we all know in life, if something is easy, then many times it's not worth it. And they made it easy for a reason. But for those who took the time to research and those who know the science of business, you will see how the LLC is a trap. So LLC, a limited liability company, is a structure allowed by state statute and is formed by filing articles of organizations with the state. But let's go into all types of organizations and let's go into the actual details of the actual structure. We click here. This is still all on the IRS website, family. We're going to go to a single member LLC because honestly, most of us, we're starting a business by ourselves, which is fine. Even now, I have a one-person corporation, which is myself. I have 3 that I control. But if we click on a single member LLC, let's see what the IRS says. All right, we are here. It says single member LLC. An LLC with only one member who can be an individual or another organization. Since you are a single member LLC, we must initially classify you as a disregarded entity. This means on the federal level, when you get an EIN, which is a federal acknowledgement so that they can get the taxes, this means the IRS is telling you the LLC is ignored or disregarded for the purpose of filing a federal tax return. Now, I'm not a tax expert. I'm not claiming to be one. I've done my research and sat down with my tax person. And what does that mean? This gives the IRS the right to come after you for the taxes and things of that business, which means you, the one that forms this LLC, will be responsible for that business, which means it ties you to the business. For instance, so when I had our business at the airport and COVID hit, I had company equipment that I had to take out in my name, which was attached to me. So when we could no longer do business, I was stuck with the bill, and these things would and are affecting my personal credit. Because of my ignorance, I did not know my LLC would not protect me. It is not independent of me. It is still attached to me. That is not what you want from forming a business. I know what you're saying. So what else does this say? So basically, family, this is saying the IRS doesn't care about your LLC. Again, they care about you. Again, this means you are not separate from your business federally. And as we know, if the feds is the bigger entity than the state. So an LLC is a pass-through by default. Again, which means your name is still tied to the taxes and you are still liable for whatever happens under that business that is formed as an LLC. But you know what? Let's see what it says about a corporation because that's the key. We're going to go up to where we started here and let's get into a corporation, family. This is so important. A corporation is a legal entity established by a charter, granting it certain legal powers, rights, privileges, and liabilities. A corporation can be established by a person or group of people with a charter from the state Secretary of State. After a corporation is created, it becomes its own entity and generally has an indefinite lifespan. Family, this is truly the game changer in properly creating a dynasty, not connected to it, but you are literally building a dynasty that is not connected to you in the form of a business. So that means your corporation can receive its own funding detached of you, have its own, let's say, Social Security. This is powerful when you are trying to scale your business. Like many, you heard the word corporation and you thought about Target and all these other companies who are just businesses that have grown. But what allowed them to grow is the fact that they properly structured their business in a legal entity that would allow for them to grow separate of the actual person who founded it. Now, one last thing before we end, because there's so much more that I want to get into. But first, I want you to like, subscribe, and comment below if you've learned anything that what I'm saying, or you have any questions to challenge, because the purpose is truth can be defended throughout an unlimited mark of time. All right, I want to leave you with one last thing that I found I thought was so interesting. I know many of us, and I had at one point a business credit card. I thought I was doing it because the company name was on there, but it was attached to me, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to Google American Express business cards. Here we go. We're going to go to the American Express website. Business. I mean, I had one. I thought I was doing it, family. But, on the American Express website, it says there's no impact on your personal credit score to learn if you're approved. If this was about business, why would they mention your personal credit score? That's because there's an American Express business for those who are formed in an LLC and keep your business attached to you, which means you'll always be locked in. This is the way they keep us locked in the rat race, not the ability to separate our business from itself so that it could grow on its own, detached from you, and live on its own as its own entity so it can properly build credit fast. And more series to come. I'm going to show you a list of things that I'm doing with my corporation to establish its business credit. That's more to come. But why is this important? Because if you go way down to the bottom of the website, I like to say it's where the juiciness is found. You're going to see American Express corporate program for corporations. Now, when you open it, this is completely different from the other business side. Here, and we'll get into more details about it, and I can show you, these cards are not attached. You don't see anything about your personal credit, because this is for, the business as its own entity. So the business can have its own card attached to its own credit, nothing to do with you. And this is the corporate side of American Express. All that means, family, those who structure their business as a separate entity from themselves. You have special privileges. Well, your business does, not you. Because the whole point of this is to show you how we create and build dynasties. So in my upcoming videos, we will get more into my dynasty structure. Well, it's not mine, because I definitely learned it. Where you have an operating company, a parent company, and a holding company. This is how most successful, wealthy people create wealth. If you think about it, how can you create generational wealth with a limited liability company? First of all, the word limited should have stood out to us. But family, again, I leave you with this. A legacy is what you are remembered for. A dynasty is what you build. If you want more information, please like, subscribe, share. We're going to free our people. This is the science of business that we were never taught. So we're going to get into more details on why a corporation, how we create corporations. The only reason why we was afraid of a corporation because we did not know that we could start a corporation and it was just a business entity that could separate itself from us. So family, we get into more. Please like, share, and subscribe. I am again Brother RTM, and I hope you learned something new. Peace.